Welcome back, y'all, to another episode of Bad and Bard. It's your girl, Avi B.
Woo, 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 woo.
And
Oh, but I gotta say, you always say my name
I
though.
do always say her
You have
name.
to
Oh my
introduce
God.
me.
I'm sorry. Okay, you're right. I do got to introduce you because
You
guess
gotta introduce
what?
me. I'm brand new, please.
It is Kenny K on the mic, and that is with an Esquire at the end because my girl just found out she passed the North Carolina bar exam.
Point blank and period.
So it's not one lawyer and one law student anymore. It's two lawyers on the mic. And, we here.
We are both officially bad and barred.
Bam, bam, bam,
Not just bad.
bam.
So what we get into today, girl?
Two lawyers on the mic, and I'm really, really ready to hop into this topic because it has become abundantly clear to me through, unfortunately, this election. I know you're tired of talking about the election, but
Very
it's
much
become abundantly clear to me that people do not understand the three different branches of government.
Okay.
So we taking it back. Civics 101 today. We're going to get into it because it is clear that people think that the president has the power to do everything. Every little thing. People are like, I'm not voting for this person. I'm not voting for that person because Joe Biden did so and so and so and such. And I'm like, oh my God, if I hear that one more time, I might freak. Joe Biden doesn't have half the power that y'all think he has.
Right.
He does not. So let's get into it. We have three levels of government. What are they, Kens?
The legislative, the executive, and the judicial.
Pew, 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 pew.
She be trying to test me, y'all. I don't know who or what she thinks she is, but she be trying to give me tests. Like, girl, please.
I mean, I know you passed the bar, and I just want to make sure you knew your stuff.
that won't on there for real.
Okay, so I'll try my best to take the legislative branch. So we like you just said, the three branches: legislative, judicial, executive branch. The legislative branch, also known as Congress, that is a word that people throw around and may not know that those two things are one and the same. Congress. Those are the people that we represent to go make laws. Say it with me.
That represent us.
Yes.
To go make the laws.
Yes, excuse me.
Supposedly.
The people that we vote for to go and write and vote on laws. Another word for laws is policy. People say policy loosely, laws, okay?
Right.
They put these statutes, another word for law, on the books. They vote, they meet, they discuss.
Right.
That is the branch that creates the laws. And so it's broken out into two different bodies, the Senate and the House of Representatives. I talked about this a little bit last time when speaking about the Electoral College. The Senate, we get two from each state. We get two senators from each state. So 2 people, each state gives us 100. There's always going to be 100 people in the Senate unless there's some type of constitutional amendment. And then we move on to the House of Representatives because when the framers said, how are we going to make this fair? They said, okay, let's consider one. One is an equal body. Everybody get 2. Then the other one will be based on the size of the state. Right. So the House of Representatives gets a certain number, each state gets a certain number of representatives to go to the House, depending on the population of that state. And so total, there are 435 House of Reps members for a total of 535 members in Congress, AKA the legislative branch.
The more you know.
Okay, so do you want to tell us a little bit about the judicial branch?
So the judicial branch is exactly what it sounds like. Like that, I feel like is the easiest one of all. Like the judges, the courts. Those are the people who are not making the rules, enforcing the rules. Well, sorry, not even enforcing.
Interpreting.
Kind of. Okay, so this is the way I think about it. This is the way it was explained to me. I had to take like the 0L course before I went into law school, and I was like, this makes so much sense to me. I was explained it was like, think of the government like a game, like you call it football, you call it basketball, whatever the case. The executive branch, which is what the president is under, or in the executive branch, and he is sort of the head of the executive branch. The executive branch are the people who are the players. They are the players on the field. all your law enforcement agencies are in the executive branch, the federal ones anyway, the FBI, DEA, all those law enforcement people are in the executive branch because they are the ones enforcing the laws. They are on the playing field, out in the streets, enforcing these laws.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like Avi just explained, the legislative are the ones writing the laws that they are going out there to enforce. The legislative gives them to say, these are the rules of the game. Everybody knows, like in football, you can't hit people. I don't know. I don't know what you can't do in football for real, but you see what I'm saying? Like that, there are rules, and everybody can grasp that concept. There are rules, there are laws in place, and they give it to the executive branch to say, here, now go play. And then you have the judicial branch, who are the refs. They're the ones calling flags on the play. They're the ones saying, no, that wasn't right. You weren't supposed to do this. These are the rules here. Y'all were not playing by these rules. Executive branch, y'all are the ones out on the field, and y'all are not doing this correctly. So we have to come in and say, okay, no, we have to look at the footage, play it back. Y'all ain't did this right, or tell the rule makers, go back, write it up. So there are what they like to call checks and balances. So in that scenario, nobody has more power really than the other, supposedly. Okay, supposedly nobody has more power than the other because everybody has a part they have to play, and at every level there should be a check, there should be a balance, there should be somebody saying, you can't do this, you shouldn't do that. That is the way that I think of it. It is a game, and it very much feels like a game, but it is a game where you have certain distinct players and everybody plays on each other. Everybody has a role, everybody has something they have to do. And so there is not one branch of government, there is not one single person, president included, that can do things willy-nilly or alone.
Yeah, that would be called a dictatorship, which we don't have. But unfortunately, if Kamala loses this election, we will. So that was real good. That was
But
that was.
how? Okay. Are we able to talk about that? Would that be? I don't want to get too nitty gritty, but like,
I want to get into the politics. You don't.
how? I know, but then I have questions.
I know.
And so the thing is, like I just explained, if it's checks and balances, if there are things in place that, and this is the Constitution, this is not just people making stuff up now.
Right.
This is constitutional,
Right.
that these different players have these different roles. How is Trump, or anybody else for that matter, able to come onto the scene and say, actually, forget all that. We're going to do it how I want to do it. We're going to be a dictatorship instead of a democracy. How is he able to do those things if we just said he can't do nothing by himself?
Yeah, well, first of all, that analogy was great. I've never heard of it as a game. That was good. That is like really kind of well fleshed out, minus your poor football analogies. I don't know nothing about football.
I don't know about football. I don't know why I should have said basketball. I know more about basketball. But they kept saying football, but
Yeah.
a game, any game.
Yeah, that was really good. So when you think about the judicial branch interpreting the law, that's just how I always known it. But you're right, like looking at the rules and figuring out who broke them, who broke the rules. And so when in your analogy, when you say the executive branch are the players on the field, well, who's the other team? The people, the regular citizens of the United
They're playing
States.
each other.
Yeah, the people versus the executive
it's
branch.
At home scrimmage.
Okay, so yeah, so I wanted to back up and then I'll come back and answer your question. I wanted to just highlight one of the important things that you said about the executive branch, which is the third branch that is enforcing the rules. That is where the president lies. The president falls under the executive branch of the government, and then there are all of these executive agencies, some that you just listed out. The DOJ, which is the Department of Justice, the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, DHS, Department of Homeland Security. There's a host of agencies, governmental agencies that fall under the executive branch that, are under like that authority and that leadership. And there's a lot of interplay there that folks don't really understand. That's where a lot of stuff happens. That people think that the president signed some rule and made it happen, but it's really either one of these departmental agencies or it's something that's within Congress that's completely out of his authority. Right. And so when you talk about how can somebody just come in and change the rules or do whatever have you? I think we saw a little bit of shift when Donald Trump was formerly the president, because he shook things up a bit, right? So we saw
Mhm.
some movement, not in the Constitution, the rules were still there, the law was still there, but we never seen a president issue executive orders in the way that Donald Trump had. And so executive orders are supposed to be like these documents signed by the president to govern the executive agency, like to those agencies, right, that we're speaking of. They're
Right.
supposed to be enforcement mechanisms for those agencies that provide guidance and direction. He came in just signing stuff.
Mhm.
Right? And I think the issue is that people don't understand that Donald Trump was willing to push the boundaries and say forget the law, and then people sue, and then the courts either overturn what, like, right, he violated the law many and plenty of times, which is
Mhm.
why he has all these court cases. And then it's up to the courts to look and assess to see whether he violated the law, broke the rules, and if those actions need to be undone. And
Right.
so he came in previously and pushed the boundaries. I think the issue is if Project 2025 happens in the way that they say that it is, right, it will look like a complete dictatorship, because he plans to wipe out several of those executive agencies that we just talked about a second ago.
Mhm.
The Department of Education is is another agency that I didn't list a second ago. He plans to do away with it. He said, "Forget
Right.
it. We don't need all these people. We don't need all that. You got me."
Right.
I'ma
You got
think
me.
I'ma think for the whole executive branch. I don't need
Yeah.
all them departments. I don't need to figure out, who's gonna do what. I am
Right.
gonna make the rules. That's very problematic, because that is not the way in which um the framers set the Constitution, and I have some issues with other things that they've done, but it was always supposed to be the checks and balances system in the way that you laid it out a second ago, in which no agency was more powerful than the other. And
Mhm.
so if we have a president who's going to come in and say, you know what? I am going to single handedly create whatever it is that I want, and then I'll break the law. Y'all can challenge them in court, right? As he's done before. Y'all can challenge them in court. The issue is we now have a supermajority on the Supreme Court who will ratify all of his actions and not say that anything he's done is illegal. And so
So
that's
even if they do, by the time he gets there, by the time he gets up to the courts and everything, he's gone.
right. Right. People
He's
sue
not
all the
there.
time, right? But the judicial process is extremely slow. It's not efficient at all.
Yeah.
So he can come in and wreak havoc. And by the time it reaches the courts,
He gone. The havoc has been wrought.
people gonna be
It's been
dead.
wrecked. Okay. And so I mean, we all know, like, of course, in theory, and we've talked about this before, that everything sounded good, I guess, to the framers. Nobody knows really what they really had going on, but everything sounded good. And at the time, I don't think they could have imagined a world in which we are in today, and where people would be so brazen to do these things. But obviously, these executive agencies, they weren't in the Constitution. Like,
Right.
there's nothing to say you have to have these agencies. They have guidelines for establishing the agencies, and promoting the heads of the agencies and things like that. But there's nothing in there that says, and you got to have a Department of Education. So, like, it's like, yes, technically he's playing within the rules, but he's finding loopholes. He is
right.
finding loopholes. He is finding the cracks and the crevices. And so some of the stuff is technically legal.
Right. That's the scary thing about it, is that
It is.
he's pushing bounds that nobody has ever tried to like push before. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
sure, some of those things are not necessarily illegal. They're just very bad. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's just a
Yeah.
terrible practice to initiate. And I think what's also extremely um worrisome about Project 2025, and I'm not going to do a full dive into it, but just wanted to mention is
Please,
like
God.
they have already identified who their pawns would be, right? So they
Mhm.
have a full list of names of judges, of politicians, of lawyers, right? Of people who align with the MAGA agenda. And
Mhm.
he says, I'll wipe out what's already there, and I'll just put my people in where I think they fit.
Right.
Right. And so there are plenty of people who work for the government who ain't going to have a job if Donald Trump wins, right? They're going to wake up and be jobless, because he's going to completely do away with that, completely like completely do away with their agency, and he can say, I'll put my people in and we'll create whatever it is that we want to create. And they have a policy to do that. They have like a full outline, a full agenda to create whatever they want.
Yeah.
So
all this to say how we always say, just make sure you get out there and vote. Whoever you vote for, if that's what you want, then vote for that.
Don't you?
I
stay home.
hate that for you, but if that's what you want, then vote for that. If that's not what you want, then vote against that. Like, that's all I ever have to say about it. I never really like to talk to people about, like, I mean, at this point, I think obviously everybody knows, like, certain dinner table conversations you don't have. Politics, religion, those are the things. And so I don't really like to talk politics anyway, but I for sure can't do it now. Like, with me and you can do it, obviously, because we've been in this thing for a while.
Yeah.
We argue and fuss, and then we're like, okay, girl. But I can't. I don't see the logic, and I don't see the reasoning for some people who are voting Trump. Like, all they keep saying is, he gave us money, and he's a good businessman. Okay, well, sure. If that's what you want, and if that's all you care about, go ahead. I can't talk about it no more. I can't defend the cats and the dogs. They eat the dogs. If that's what you believe, then get the people out of here. Get the immigrants out of here if that's what you believe. But if you want somebody that has some sense, is talking some sense, maybe you should get out to the polls. That's all I ever got to say.
My name is Aviance Brown, and I do not endorse that messaging. If you plan to vote for Donald,
Aviance gonna argue you down. Please don't have no conversations with her.
Yeah, 1000%.
She lose friends over it. I don't want to go that far.
Yeah, I am absolutely 1000% willing to lose friends over it, because if you plan to vote for Donald Trump, and as Kendall just said, send the immigrants home, stay your ass at home. Don't show up to the polls. Don't even bother. I hope something happens. I hope your car gets a flat tire. I hope that your absentee ballot somehow does not arrive in the mail. I genuinely do not encourage you to go to the polls.
Okay, Avi, what is the next thing? What's next on the agenda?
Okay, please? I'm sorry about that. That was a little bit of a tangent. I wanted to hop into the judicial branch for just a quick second. So we talked about that, right? We said the courts are the place where we are looking to interpret the rules. And historically, it's been said that the courts are supposed to be a unbiased, like, informed third party, kind of like what you're saying about, if we go back to your analogy about the referees, right? They're supposed to be unbiased. They're not bought. They're not on this team, not on that team. They're supposed to be a neutral party that is coming in to look at facts and law and make an interpretation.
Right.
With that being said, do you think that, like, so for example, like what we have in North Carolina, do you think that judges should be able to run partisan, like based on their party? Because we have right now a system where when you go to the polls in October or November, there will be judges on your ballot in North Carolina, and underneath their name is going to either say Republican or Democrat. And I find that absolutely absurd, but I want to know what you think about it.
Okay. I always feel like I'm out of my depth sometimes with these conversations, only because I think I'm a bit naive. I think I am always of the opinion that hopefully, I just completed everything I needed to complete to become a licensed attorney in the state of North Carolina. And so I can't imagine that you would do all these things and go through your career and get into a judgeship only to get on the bench and decide cases based on your political party. I find that deplorable, honestly. I really do. I would hope that they could get on there regardless of their political affiliation and still decide cases fairly, and still be impartial, and still go by the law, and not just, oh, this is a Republican agenda, this is a Democratic agenda, and for both sides. Like, I'm not gonna say, oh, because you're a Republican, that means you're like for the death penalty, or all those things, all those conservative ideals. Even the Democrats, like, I don't think you should be super soft on like crime and stuff like that. Like, I think any judge, regardless, should be impartial and should go by the law and should decide these cases based on the facts in front of them and the law. But I mean, you obviously you feel
Oh,
different because you gonna feel different. You think that they can't, right?
oh, listen to that sweet new innocent baby.
I'm a child of God.
You're very optimistic. You're very hopeful in people, and that's really great. I
I do.
never want you to lose that spark, sweets.
Mm-hmm.
However, that
I
ain't.
don't want to be as cynical as you. I don't want to be 6 years in and be that cynical. I don't.
Yeah, once you go and appear before a few judges, let me hear what you think about that. I want to know if you feel the same way. After a few cases, go down to rural North Carolina. Not
Mm-hmm.
don't go practice in Raleigh and Durham where people look like us. No, 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 baby.
Right.
Go down to rural North Carolina when you walk in and they ask to see your bar card when you clearly standing in the lawyer line and waiting to walk in with the rest of the lawyers and nobody else gets carded but you. Go then and stand before the judge at the table where counsel is clearly present, standing beside your client, dressed as a lawyer in a suit with your briefcase and your documents, and the judge say, is the lawyer present because they're trying to be funny.
Yeah.
Have a few of them cases and then come back to me and see if you think that the judicial branch is just so fair and impartial. Like, come on,
I
let's be
don't
for
think that
real.
they are.
You think they
I
should
don't get
be?
me wrong. I do know that they're not. I do know that. I know that everybody is not. But like I said, I don't think it's every single one. You think it's every single one?
No, I don't think it's every single one. Obviously, like
Mm.
there are some people who do care about the law. Like that that is,
Right.
there are still some people in there, a lot of them Democratic appointees who are not aligned to their party because that is the thing. Democrats are known to be a free-flowing party. It is
Mm-hmm.
the MAGA Republicans that align that whatever they say at the top, you got to get in line. People have a problem with Democrats because they don't employ the same tactics as Republicans. But the issue is that there's freedom of thought. There's a spectrum on the Democratic aisle, right? There's
Yeah.
liberals. There are, more moderate Democrats, which is what, like, my parents are more moderate. I'm more liberal, but there's a spectrum of Democrat. There is no
Mm-hmm.
longer that on the Republican side. They're all MAGA maggots. I've said it before.
I
And
literally cringe every time you say that word.
you're
Makes my
sorry.
skin crawl.
I'm so sorry, but that's just what I believe. But yeah, so in terms of whether or not I think that they should be partisan, when we first talked about this, as we were planning for the episode, I thought like, oh my God, that's abhorrent. It's terrible. Like they should not. And that was my first thought when I
Mm-hmm.
looked, like when I got my first ballot and saw for the first time that judges were either listed as Republican or Democrat. I was like, wait, what? Not the neutral party being listed under a party? Huh?
Right.
But then I thought about it and I was like, well, at least you know the evil. Like, at least you know going in if they are aligned to their party, which is typically the case for most Republican judges. At least you know what you're getting into when you're walking into that voting booth because let's be for real. Everyday people are not sitting and looking through court opinions to see where this judge ruled on this or where their
Mm-hmm.
opinion fell on this, right? That's just
Mm-hmm.
not the reality of the situation. And so at least you know which evil you are picking when you walk into the polls when they're listed as that. I still just think that it's a little problematic that they even have party affiliations because that's not what they're for. And I was listening to a panel of judges the other day speaking about how problematic that is in North Carolina because here where we have a cuckoo true like Mark Robinson running for governor who is spewing nothing but hate and not trying to even hide it, right?
Mm-hmm.
They pointed out that the fact that you are a Republican running a Republican judge running under the same party and ticket as he is to voters that signals that you are aligned with Mark Robinson. And so, unless you are coming out and speaking out against the hate that he's spewing, people
Mm-hmm.
automatically will associate you with that party because again, people see it. I'm sorry, a lot of people do see it as left and right. A lot of people are not looking at the ballot and saying, oh, this person might be a little more in the middle, because that's not
Yeah.
the options we're presented with. We are presented with one or two. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, you got Jill Stein out there running for third party and who could do write ins or whomever, whatever
You talking about
nonsense.
somebody poor baby. That poor baby.
My
That
God.
Oh, baby. She trying so hard.
She's trying and she tries every 4 years and hate it
Mm,
for her that, in between time and in the meantime, ain't nobody really, not nobody. She does have a large following. I will say that, but it's not
yeah,
enough people to vote for her. She's not even on the ballot in 13
right.
states and is asking people to write her in. And so we know that the third party option, unfortunately, we live in a two-party system and it's not going to get us anywhere.
Right.
Let's see. We had one little last topic before girl talk about state and federal cases. I don't know if we have time to get into it. And if you want to just do a quick
Probably
little one,
not.
two, or if we should just jump to girl talk, I feel like we should break down state and federal in another episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's postpone because I
Okay.
feel like that also is
A little
another
longer.
conversation within itself.
I
Like obviously y'all see me and her, we can do this all day. We can do this all day. Okay. But we just want to make sure like we are making this information accessible and palatable to the people who did not get a law degree because you should not need a law degree to understand this information because this information affects all of us
right.
equally. It does not matter who's barred or not barred. Like this is important information. So I just feel like we gotta break that down a little bit.
Yeah, you're right.
We'll take another episode, we'll go through a court case and we'll really like kind of get into the weeds of like state and federal and things like that. But until that day,
TBD. Yeah, you're right.
yeah.
You're absolutely right. I think, Kendall, I really think you do a good job at making it palatable and breaking it down into like regular talk. Like again, your analogy earlier was great. And we also like I try to do the same thing. I think my brain sometimes can be like immersed in lawyer language. So I'm always like trying to second guess to make sure that I am speaking in like regular everyday talk for
Yeah.
people to get it
Cause
and be
I'm like, y'all, listen, I used to be up in class. Ain't no shame in my game. I'm this way all the time. I don't care. I walk up into the law firm. I'm just like this. Like, hello, what? Who said that? I literally was in the office. I was like, who said that? I don't play. I need to give it to me like a kindergartner, break it down to me. I don't like this like high level. I mean, the legal field is known to be kind of elitist anyway, but I feel as though like with every new generation, with every, like black person that gets into the field, we gonna do the same, y'all. We're not gonna all be confused no more. This information is not going to like stress us all out. I'll be stressed. I'll be honest, telling me some of this stuff. I'm like, girl, I can't. I can't do it. I'm sick of it. So I am just like y'all. So if I can understand some of this, I know y'all got to.
Yeah, actually, she's not just like everybody. Just want to remind y'all that Kendall has a law degree. And I didn't mention this earlier. She passed the bar in the 90th percentile, meaning that she was smarter than 90% of the people who took the bar. So, no, you're not like them. You're not
No,
just.
I didn't know what that meant. That's how much like them I am. Okay. Because when somebody was like, I told my score to my friend and she was like, girl, you know your score is in like the 90th percentile. I thought that meant that like 90% of people scored that well. Like that meant like we were all, oh, I'm like, okay, good. That's great. Me 90%. I like that. I listen, because I don't care if I had to pass the bar by a point, honey, as long as they got me up in here. So when she was like, no, that means you scored better than 90% of people. I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
You creme de la creme, baby. You the top of the top. You smarter than most, okay? Hello. But no, seriously, I really am thankful. So let's jump into girl talk, which is like completely disconnected from what we're talking about today. Like a totally silly topic we just wanted to talk about because the other day we were on the phone and we were just thinking about things that were like totally normal back in the day that today will land you in jail or have you completely canceled. So we both have very similar experiences, crazily from middle school.
Yeah. Well,
That
I think it's the same. I think it's kind of the same because like that's what I think about a lot as far as like these politics and stuff like this. It did not used to be so like one side or the other. Like I was like, it's like the Crips and the Bloods now. The Democrats, Republicans, I don't care. If somebody just says I'm a Republican, it'd be on site for some of these Democrats. Like they don't care who you are, they don't care where you come from. It's like who you with. Who you with? So I feel like it wasn't like that all the time. I feel like it didn't used to be that way. And so I do feel like the girl talk is kind of reminiscent of that, of like things things that you could used to do, things that, we used to just like crack up about. And it's like now, child, you be in jail. They would throw you under the jail. So like
Okay.
one of our things was, because I don't even know how we got onto this topic, but we were talking about how, like, in middle school, if you're black now, in middle school, even high school, the guys used to smack butts. That was the thing. I don't care. I don't know what you were doing. You must didn't have a butt. They weren't smacking your butt, but mine was large. Okay, and so I endured a butt smack at least once a day. And it did not bother me. I was not concerned. Like, it did not make me feel some type of way until it, like, if they did it really hard or something like that, then it was like, all right, you don't went too far. But no, that was not a thing. And so one of my stories was when I was on the bus going home from school. And see, that in the day, the sanitary napkins were not what they used to be. I feel like now they're for the on the go woman. Back then they were diapers, essentially. And so it was my little time of the month. And I was getting off of the bus and a guy smacked my butt. And of course, he felt like a pamper back then. And he was like, "What you got on a diaper?" The bus erodes in laughter. Everybody's cracking up. I just like took myself a little off the bus, just scurried along because I felt terrible. It was so bad. But that was like, and I didn't even go home and like tell my mom or anything. It wasn't a big deal because it was like, that's just what you endured. That's what it was. I'm not saying it was for good. I'm just saying it's just what it was. And I feel like people just aren't as, not everything. Yeah, I don't think his life went well anyway. So God got him back. You don't have to condemn these people.
No, like what you're saying today would be a sexual assault charge. I literally
100%.
represented a kid once. He had autism, and he said that a girl walked past and he decided to, put his hand
Give him
on
a
it.
tap.
And her mother, the whole school, everybody in the world came down, and it ended in a battery and sexual assault charge for him. Mind you, he is in middle school. He is a teenager. And I don't condone putting your hands on anybody, okay?
No.
This is definitely very much a consent culture account.
Right.
But when I tell you they showed up in mass to make sure that this young boy was under
Ain't gonna touch nobody else.
the jail, like we reached an agreement, like a deferred prosecution agreement, by which he had to do certain things so that he could still be held accountable, but he was not sentenced to actual prison time. And when I tell you that,
as he shouldn't have been,
the mother of the child came and found me as I was walking to my car and cussed me out. She told me I was going to burn in hell.
that burns.
Yes. So like things back then, you're right. There is a good connection here. Bending the rules, right? Of things back then that, may have just been seen like, not that big of a deal, that now will land you under the jail. Possibly, okay, if not completely canceled by everybody around you. My story is very similar to yours, Kens. I was in middle school, 6th grade, and I was walking and this boy like came through and like pow, like smacked it, full force smack, like about knocked the wind out of me. And it was same, my experience was the same. Like back then it wasn't that big of a deal. It was kind of just like every day somebody was like smacking your butt and you just like, stop, like leave me alone.
Leave me alone.
Yeah, like go head on somewhere, But this particular time it was so hard that it like kind of pissed me off a little bit. Like I jolted. And my best friend at the time, she was kind of like my protector, and she was with me when it happened. She got so, like, I was still in shock. She immediately like jumped into action. She threw her phone, takes off running, and slaps the daylights out of this boy.
Oh my God, no.
Like literally knocked his soul, like knocked the spit out of his mouth. And unfortunately, she didn't care who was around. So she did it in front of a teacher, and she ended up getting suspended. He did it, but she did for defending me because she about knocked the boy's lights out. And I feel like, that was karma. You get a smack for a smack. You don't go to prison. My
Right.
God.
But I mean, that tracks. I just thought about it. It just came to me when you were telling that story. That tracks for you. That you were shocked and you stood
Stunned.
still.
Mm-hmm. That's
and
me.
somebody else had to come. Listen. In another episode, I'm gonna tell y'all about Avion.
That's me every time. I'm always stuck on stupid. My reflexes are always
and when she say, "Oh, stupid," she mean it.
I'm always very much like,
and it's so crazy because everyday life, she's not like that. Like, she is the first one to clap back. She's the first one to come on. If it's a exchange of words, well, she got you.
Yep.
But if it's time to jump into some actual action, her fight or flight is broke, honey. Okay.
No.
When they was handing it out, they didn't give her none.
Mm-mm.
Hers is fright.
No, no, they've now expanded. I don't know if you know this. It's now fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. There are 4. I think there maybe even be 5. Because other people react like me, I freeze. I legitimately freeze. My brain is like, wait, no, did that really just happen? No, wait a minute. That didn't just happen. Wait, it's time to, wait a minute. What is my words? Like, yeah, I got you. I'm a clap back.
It appears as though she's doing that in her head, but on the outside, it just looked like, if you have to be the person to say, get it to Kyoto.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay. Well, this has been fun. This has been fun. This is good.
I think we're done.
We're absolutely done.
Have done all we can do today. And so y'all gonna have to tune back in to the next episode. We got more where this came from. Okay?
It's a Rizzy wrap. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Bye.
See y'all next time.